Hello everyone and welcome to another Descent Journeys in the Dark Condition. My strategies and tactics for, if I actually get this out of the way, because this is for the Shadow Walker. Oh, this is going to be interesting because it's a yet another summon familiar. Yeah, I guess. Well, it's actually more of an interesting summon familiar. But first things first, let's actually see what you actually get straight from the word go. Firstly, how about a weapon which is the Feathered Hatchet? So, as you can see, it's blue and red, and it's a range, so very short range weapon. However, you can actually spend a surge to get a range, and a surge to make them bleed, and it is a one-handed weapon. So, okay, fair enough. It could do damage, but it's a short range, but still, it's something interesting where you can actually keep up with the warriors and still do a good amount of damage. What else do you actually get? How about this tribal cloak? Ugh. Right, well, anyway. Exhaust this card when you perform a rest action. While this card is exhausted, add an additional brown to your defense dice and its armor. Wow. So, when you rest, you can actually get a brown defense dice. When you rest, of course. Yay. Yeah, you can see I'm really over the moon with that. Right. How about your very first skill? Well, it is Soulbound. Use this card when you perform an attack that is not a miss. So, of course, when it comes down to range, if you don't have enough range, that counts as a miss. Right, so carry on. Place the Shadow Soul in any space adjacent to the target. Now, that's where it gets a little bit confusing. Why does it have to be adjacent? Why not on the target itself? Well, that could be a bit strange. Anyway, of course, only one Shadow Soul can only be placed on the map, and it takes one fatigue to do so. But what does the Shadow Soul actually do? Yeah, what do? You insidious, fiendish creature, you, if I can actually get it right. Oh no, it got blurry. No, that's because it's a Shadow Soul. Anyway, this is the scary looking Shadow Soul. As you can clearly see, it's getting closer to us. Perhaps that's a bit too close. Actually, no, that's just the camera, and that's actually me. Right. The Shadow Soul. Right away, it has a movement of 1, and that's it. Huh. The Shadow Soul may occupy any space containing figures or terrain. How good is that? I could go through walls, hooray! And of course, each time a monster in a space containing or adjacent to a Shadow Soul suffers a damage from an attack, it suffers 1 additional damage. Right, so, yeah, cause damage to a monster, it actually takes 2 instead. Or cause 2 damage and then it takes 3. So in other words, if you poke a Goblin Archer, it will die. Well, as in a minion. Well, as in Act 1. Well, yeah, anyway. So it cannot get hurt. It's a movement of 1, so it's not going to go anywhere as fast. But of course, the additional 1 damage, if you do a damage, that is, can be quite good. Yeah, I don't mind that. Well, hopefully there's some cards that can... Oh, wait, there are cards. Let's go ahead and deal with some experience spending. Right, how about the weakest ones? Or are they really weak? Let's find out. Right, firstly, Through the Veil. Exhaust this card when you perform an attack that targets a monster in a space containing or adjacent a Shadow Soul, which of course you actually have to summon it as long as it's not a miss. Anyway, before dice are rolled, okay, yeah, you add 1 additional green power dice to the attack pool, and of course it only takes 1 fatigue, which is actually not so bad. 1 fatigue to get a green dice, nice. Well, as long as the target is adjacent to the Shadow Soul, or in a space. I don't know, but yes, I think that's really good, because considering what you start with, you might not get surges. Anyway, but still, of course, when it comes down to much better weapons, you have much more options to get the surges. But in order to get surges, you need to have some dice. So, of course, Through the Veil is going to get you that green dice. I think that's a good card, actually, really. How about the next one, which is Faithful Friend? Oh, wow, thank you. Exhaust this card at the start of your turn to place a Shadow Soul within a space within 3 spaces of you, and it's exactly passive. Well, when I say passive, it means we've still got exhaust a card, but yes, this will help to move your Shadow Soul much more better, or to move it to a different place very quickly, because you're only going to move it 1 space a turn, or you just might actually leave it there, you know, just because of group up monsters. But this will actually help you move your Shadow Soul. A good way of doing things is to actually use this first, then activate your familiar. Oh wow, that's a very good card, because as I said, the Shadow Soul, I'm losing my words, actually has a movement of 1, so yes, very handy card. So far all is well. There's one more. Okay, well, let's have a look, shall we? Dark Servant. Oh, wow, that sounds really good. Right, so it's a skill, so use as an action. Exhaust this card to search a search token within 3 spaces of the Shadow Soul. Then discard the Shadow Soul. And of course, it doesn't take up any fatigue, but it just uses up an action. So, okay, while the Shadow Soul is supposed to be next to creatures, if they're not, then you might be able to just use your Faithful Friend to move your Shadow Soul a bit more closer to a search token, and then you can use that to not be close to a search card, but of course your familiar can be. It just still makes it hard, because of the Shadow Soul can't really move, and you have to have Faithful Friend if you're going to have this. It still takes an action, and you lose your familiar. Out of all of these 3, I'd probably say this one isn't as good as in the Dark Servant, the one where you get to use up an action just to get that search token. The other 2, however, I'll definitely go for. So if you do like the look of the Dark Servant, that's still fine, you know. I'm just giving out my point of view of what happens if you keep losing and you don't actually have enough experience points. Go for the ones that would actually be a little bit more handy than this. Well, that's my point of view. Anyway, everyone has their own points of views. Anyway, we still have more to go through. Of course we have more. You know we have more. Because this one's the spend 2 experience points. Yeah. And then we got 3. Anyway, right, firstly, we have Endless Void. Sounds good, doesn't it? Right, so each time a Shadow Soul is discarded due to your class skills, so far we have found 1. What? And I'm going to tell you this much in advance, there's actually 2. Right. So, it's discarded due to your class skills. You recover 1 damage and 1 fatigue. There is 2 class skills that lets you discard your familiar. So far this is not all that great. Okay, yeah, you get to recover a health and a fatigue, but then so do healers. Healers can do that for you, even resting as well. And of course you've got that tribal cloak, you know, when you take a rest action you get brown dice. Anyway, right, if a hero figures in a space containing a shadow soul is the target of an attack, that attack is a miss unless the attacker spends one surge. So really we become a shadow dragon. Wait, there's a little bit extra there, because did you notice that the target of the attack, it doesn't say melee attack, it means attack, so that's range as well as melee, so you're more like a better shadow dragon. Okay, so the bottom part is actually better than the top part. Is it actually worth to spend 2 experience just for the bottom part? Yes and no. Especially when you're up against lieutenants, you know, you stand next to the Shadow Soul, and it's like, well, if the lieutenant's standing next to the Shadow Soul as well, so heroes on the Shadow Soul, being all hidden and all that, and the lieutenant's next to it as well, so any damage you do will do an extra 1 more damage to the lieutenant, and the lieutenant's got well, lieutenant and all monsters has got to actually suffer, will spend a surge just to actually hit you. This is it's not a bad skill, just the top part is a letdown. Well, let's just carry on, shall we, because yes, you know. Next one is Otherworldly. Ooh, sounds nice, doesn't it? They all sound nice until you actually read them. Anyway, each attack that targets a monster in a space containing or adjacent to the Shadow Soul gains Pierce 1. So, not only do you get to do an additional damage if you do your damage, you also get Pierce 1, which lets you do more damage, really. Well, when I say do more damage, is guaranteed to do more damage. Well, when I say guaranteed, it's a little bit more. I'm rambling. Right, each time you spend a surge to recover a fatigue, your attack gains +1 damage. Already really nice. So you have the top part and you have the bottom part. Oh, so yeah, I think that's really good. It's like spend a surge, no, just to recover 1 of the fatigue, just to do 1 more damage, and of course sorry, excuse me, really should have a drink. With the likes of Through the Veil, you know, the green dice as well, giving you at least more surges, or hoping to get more surges. The green dice is mainly for surges, so that is a good combo there already. So far I think it's a really good card, especially with the Pierce 1, and you can automatically get more damage as well just by spending a surge to get your stamina back into its rightful place. Right, next, Dark Shift. Apply +1 to your stamina. Hooray, we love adding more stamina. Right, each time a hero enters a space containing the Shadow Soul, that hero gains 1 movement point, and it's completely passive. Well, it's nice to have that +1 stamina. I think it would be a lot more better if instead of a hero enters, it would be great if it was heroes enters or starts the turn. Yeah, so if you start your turn on the Shadow Soul, you're not going to get that 1 movement point because you're not entering, you're already there. Which, no, where is that? The Endless Void, you know, when a hero is in a space containing the Shadow Soul. Oh, that won't work for it because you're not entering, you're already there. Well, out out of these three, I'd definitely go for the Otherworldly, just because it's actually a lot more helpful. Just because of the Pierce one, and you can spend a surge to not only recover your fatigue, but to do 1 more damage. Plus, it works well with Through the Void. No, Through the Veil. Void. I'm thinking of the Endless Void. Endless Void is yet again not really all that bad. Yes, there is only 2 cards that lets you discard the Shadow Soul. Of course, you could discard it yourself, but it actually states that due to your class skills, so you're only thinking of really the bottom part, which I know still it's a good card. It's a good card. The Dark Shift, however, doesn't quite cut it, just because of the slow moving familiar. Yes, you do have the Faithful Friend, which allows you to kind of move the Shadow Soul within 3 spaces of you, but in some ways it can actually work good with just these 2. You know, you exhaust the card, place the Shadow Soul in front of you, and then when you enter the space you get another movement point, and you can keep doing that again and again and again. But really you're not moving the Shadow Soul to like the monsters themselves, which is what you want to do. So while that is a combo there, it's okay. The only way that these will work properly is if you're actually running away. You know, you've got to get back to the entrance because you're carrying something. But it's still a bit a downside, really. Yeah, okay. With this, you get an extra stamina. Yeah. Okay. If you got the experience points to spend, then go for it. Go pick up almost everything. But I'd probably just leave the Dark Shift behind. Alright, well, time for the big guns. Oh, but there is no guns in this game. Anyway, right. Next, the Shadow Step. Right. So this is the 3 experience points costing. Right, as a skill. So uses as an action. Exhaust this card to place your hero figure in a space that contains only the Shadow Soul. Then you may discard that Shadow Soul. This is the second one that lets you discard the Shadow Soul. Yeah, so to perform an attack. If you do, add a surge to results, and it takes 1 fatigue. So it's a teleportation thing that allows you to get into combat a little bit more quickly if you're on the other side of the map, because you had to go back to fight some monsters, but you kept on moving the Shadow Soul 1 space at a time. It allows you to go boom, and off you go. But you don't actually have to discard the Shadow Soul. It just if you don't, then you can't attack. Well, unless you have another action. If you still have another action, then you can use the second action to attack. Another good thing about this is that you could just keep moving your Shadow Soul, moving away. You know, if you need to go back to the entrance kind of thing. Because you need to get to one place, all the way to one end of the map, pick up an objective token or something, and then get out. You could probably just leave your Shadow Soul, just exit, just for fun. You know, troll the Overlord, and then go boom, done, job done. But how many quests are there to get from one side to the other just to go all the way back? And it just might not be handy during the finales. Okay. There's obviously some things that you could do with this, which is good, but it's not that good. Right, well, that was a slight disappointment. Of course, there are good ways of using their card. It's just, well, it's just that's it. Next is Shadow Puppet. Right, so it's a skill, so use as an action. Exhaust this card to choose a monster within 3 spaces of your Shadow Soul. Perform an attack with the Shadow Soul using the attack type dice and surge abilities of that monster, and it takes 3 fatigue to use. However, it's a very, very good card. It's like, my attacks aren't all that great, but that monster over there is. Right, I'm going to tell you something about this card, okay? Something you might not actually think it is, but it truly is, right? Okay. So, here's the Shadow Soul again, and it's getting closer. Oh my god! No, it's me again. Right, so you pick a monster. So let's pretend that there's some monsters here, and here, and here. And you say you want to pick the Master Etin. Why would you not? Okay. So you choose the dice and surge abilities, but it doesn't state they must attack that creature. You can attack any creature there is. So using the Master Etin's attack dice and surges to attack something that's there also, like a shadow dragon, you know, just because. No, let's just because Etins have a good amount of dice. Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be a shadow dragon, of course, because you are using the attack dice, so attack type, melee or range. So, of course, when it comes down to melee, you've got to be next to yourself. If it's ranged, then it's well, range. Let's get that out of the way. It's freaking me out. Yeah, okay, so it does take an action to use, and it does take up 3 stamina. Yeah, okay, so if your attack dice isn't actually any good, then you'd definitely go for this. Because I'm pretty sure you'll find plenty of good attack dice and surges to spend as well. Yeah, so I'd definitely go for that a lot more than Shadow Step. Even though Shadow Step is a little bit more tactical use, Shadow Puppet is more practical use. And you probably want to go for more practical use just because of the slow moving Shadow Soul, which only has a speed of 1. Right, now a quick look of the Act 1 shop cards. Just a quick look, just going through of what you might think, of what I think of what might be handy. So you might want to go for the Mono Weave, just because you can exhaust the card to add a surge to result. You know, more surges, more fun, especially in Act 2. You got the Ring of Power, +1 stamina. You know, it's always nice to have more stamina. The Scorpion Helm, +1 to your range. Just so you don't miss when it comes down to not enough range. Feast Vest for extra might and awareness, and of course brown dice. Much better than a tribal cloak, I'll tell you that much. You have a heavy cloak, so you can exhaust the card to cancel a surge. That targets you. The poison blowgun, because of Pierce 1. +1 damage and poison, +1 range and +1 damage. Green dice, and of course with the through the veil, which gives you an extra green dice. It just said that it's probably one of the best cards there is. I did say 1. There are good cards, but still. Sunburst, give you a bit better range, and of course stun as well, +2 damage. It shouldn't be that hard to get the surges, especially with the, yet again, Through the Veil. That Through the Veil is a lot more handy than you think. How about Magna Blast? Yeah, blast, burn, short range, but still with the green dice, you're bound to get either one. And of course, the Shadow Soul cannot take any damage. Yeah, so try and get them right next to everyone. Blast them. You could probably do 2 damage to almost all of them. Yeah, so that's why I picked that one. And another one is the Bow of Bone. If you're not moved, add additional green dice. So you probably get 2 additional green dice. Yeah, +2 range, 1 damage, or 2 surges +3 damage. How's that nice? The Magic Staff. You could deal an additional 1 damage to a monster within free space of the target. You got +1 range, of course. So you could be doing a good amount of damage. So you've got the red dice. Having the Through the Veil again. Yeah. You get to do quite a bit of damage to one of them, and do another damage to another monster within free spaces. How's that? You got the City Guard's Bow as well. +2 damage and +3 range, just to make sure that you do actually get in range and hit. Right. Next lot. The Act 2. What I think you should probably try and find is Star of Kelos. Add additional green dice. Because when it comes down to Act 2, you'd like as much surges as you want. Wow. Golden Mask. Each time you perform an attack, all X results treated as a blank. So therefore, you'd never miss when you roll an X. Very good when summoning your Shadow Soul. You have the Miracle Plate. It gives you +2 health. You can't equip runes though, but it does give you a grey dice. Of course, there's plenty of normal non-rune weapons. So, like the Repeating Crossbow. Yeah, blue, red, yellow, and more than likely green. Spend a surge, the attack affects 1 additional figure adjacent to your target, and another one is +3 damage. So yeah, you get to do another target, which means each time a monster suffers a damage, it suffers another damage. Which is like I said, with Blast is also really good. So get that Shadow Soul into a group of monsters and just laugh. Like Lightning Strike, Blast, +2 damage, +2 damage. You have the yellow, and possibly a green, maybe, I don't know. But that Blast definitely looks pretty good. Bow of the Sky, +1 range, so you're definitely going to be in range. Stun, double surge, +3 damage. Ice Storm, Immobilize, just because it's fun, and +2 damage. You should be able to get both surges, you know, blue, yellow, and a green. Have a Rune of Misery to curse, or +1 range and +1 damage, or double surge for +4 damage, and of course with 1 green dice, or should that be 2, you should at least get at least 1 or 2. And of course, Bow of the Eclipse, Pierce 2, double surge, +1 range, +3 damage, +1 range, +1 damage, with 1 green dice, or should that be 2 green dice? Who knows? Well, that's all I have really. That was the Shadow Warrior. It's an interesting, some unfamiliar class. Yeah, okay, that's all I have. Thank you. Bye.